The observation deck of the Crimson Talon training facility hummed with the low vibration of frustrated growls. Celine Varick stood at the entrance of the nursery chamber, arms crossed, watching the chaos unfold with practiced patience. 6 Crithian cubs, apex predators in training, were supposed to be resting after their morning combat drills. Instead, they ricocheted off the reinforced walls like furred missiles, their razor-sharp claws leaving fresh gouges in the supposedly indestructible alloy. Tovik, the largest of the cubs and their self-appointed leader, stood on his hind legs atop a sleeping platform, releasing a challenging roar that would have been intimidating if his voice hadn't cracked halfway through. His silver-striped fur bristled with defiance, and his amber eyes locked onto Celine with the kind of determination that had made his species the galaxy's most feared warriors. "The human thinks she can make us sleep," Tovik announced to his packmates, his translator collar rendering his growls into crisp galactic standard. "We are Crithian. We do not submit to nap time." A chorus of yips and snarls echoed his sentiment. The smallest cub, barely 3 cycles old, attempted to climb the climate control shaft. Another pair wrestled over a training dummy, shredding it with enthusiasm that would have made their instructors proud in any other context. Celine checked her datapad. The cubs had been awake for 18 standard hours. By Crithian developmental standards, they needed rest or they'd become dangerously unstable. Already, she could see the telltale signs: erratic movements, heightened aggression, the beginning of stress marks darkening around their eyes. The previous caretaker, a hulking Vrexian with scales thick enough to deflect plasma rounds, had quit after 2 days. "They are monsters," he'd declared, his tail tucked in submission. "I have faced war zones more peaceful than this nursery." Celine had taken the position anyway. Humans had a reputation in the galactic community, not as warriors or strategists, but as something far stranger. They were the species that had somehow domesticated nearly every creature they'd encountered on their death world. The species that saw an apex predator and thought, friend-shaped. She stepped into the chaos. "All right, cubs," she said calmly, her voice cutting through the noise without rising in volume. "I understand you're not tired." "Correct," Tovik declared triumphantly, dropping to all fours and stalking toward her. At this age, he already stood chest-high to Celine, his fangs the length of her fingers. "We are mighty. We require no sleep." "I see." Celine nodded seriously. She moved to the corner of the room where she'd placed a worn fabric chair that morning. Imported at considerable expense from Earth, the cubs watched with wary curiosity as she settled into it, the chair creaking under her weight. From her satchel, she withdrew a battered physical book, its pages yellowed with age. Tovik's ears flicked forward. "What is that?" "A book," Celine replied, opening it carefully. "A human thing. We use them to store stories." "Stories?" one of the other cubs asked, creeping closer despite herself. "Like battle chronicles?" "Sometimes," Celine said. "This one is different. It's very old, from my homeworld. My grandmother used to read it to me when I was small." She'd captured their attention now, though they pretended otherwise. Cubs scattered around the room in supposedly casual positions, but every ear was angled toward her. Tovik remained standing, though he'd stopped his aggressive posturing. Celine began to read, her voice transformed. The calm, authoritative tone softened into something else. Something warm and rhythmic, rising and falling like gentle waves. She didn't read in Galactic Standard but in English, one of Earth's ancient languages. The translator collars processed the words, but something was lost and gained in translation. The sounds themselves carried meaning beyond vocabulary. The story was simple. It told of a small creature in a vast forest, searching for home. There were no battles, no conquests, just the quiet journey of something small in something vast, and the friends found along the way. Tovik sat down, telling himself he was simply tired of standing. One of the other cubs crawled closer, then another. Soon, they'd formed a loose circle around Celine's chair, their earlier frenzy forgotten, their breathing synchronized with her reading rhythm, their racing hearts finding a gentler pace. Celine had learned this during her xenobiology studies. Predator species, especially young ones, were hardwired to respond to patterns, the rhythm of a hunt, the cadence of a pack's movement, the predictable sequences that meant safety and structure. Human speech, particularly the melodic reading of stories, created patterns that predator brains found deeply, instinctively soothing. But there was more to it than science. There was something in the act itself. A human sitting calmly among creatures that could tear her apart, sharing something precious and old, offering trust where none was owed. Tovik's eyes grew heavy. He fought it, naturally. Leaders didn't fall asleep first, but Celine's voice continued its gentle rhythm, and the words painted pictures of green forests and warm dens, of safety and belonging. Despite himself, he felt his muscles relaxing, his breathing deepening. One by one, the cubs succumbed. They curled into piles around her chair, their dangerous claws retracted, their fierce faces soft with sleep. Tovik lasted longest, but eventually, even he surrendered, his large head coming to rest against Celine's foot. She continued reading for several more minutes after the last one fell asleep, letting the story finish its arc. Then she closed the book gently and allowed herself a small smile. Through the observation window, the facility's commander stood in stunned silence. Beside him, the Vrexian caretaker's jaw hung open, his scales pale with shock. "How?" the Vrexian whispered. The commander, a grizzled Crithian warrior who'd fought in 40 campaigns, shook his massive head. "Humans," he rumbled softly. "They look at the galaxy's fiercest predators and see children who need bedtime stories." He watched as Celine carefully extricated herself from the sleeping pile, moving with practiced care to avoid waking them. She placed the book on a nearby shelf and activated the room's environmental controls, dimming the lights and adjusting the temperature to optimal sleeping conditions. "Perhaps," the commander continued, "that is their true strength. Not that they can fight, but that they can make peace with anything." In the nursery, 6 predator cubs slept soundly, dreaming of forests they'd never seen, lulled to rest by a human's ancient magic. A good story, told with love.